That was a really fine introduction about UMass Amherst. So 3 weeks ago, I was in Asia, and then parents came. I was meeting the students, and parents came and asked, so I've heard UMass Amherst is a party school. And I was like, you know what? If you students are smart, work really hard, there's nothing wrong to do party every day, right? It's a party, it's the networking, and then I was speaking with Chinese students, parents, and I was like, I want every single Chinese student goes to party. The thing is that you don't go, the little bubble. But anyway, thank you so much. So I'm here to talk about the admissions process. It is not easy for me to cover the admissions process for all the universities, colleges in the United States, because we have more than 4,000 institutions in the US. But I'm just going to use my own experience to share my admissions process experience with everyone this morning. So before I joined the UMass Amherst, that I worked for another institution in Florida, USF. So that institution has a very, very different admissions process from UMass Amherst. So in terms of like, you have probably heard in the US that we have a different deadlines and admissions process. At USF that we did rolling. So student would apply, and then I will read the application, and then we will release the decision right away. That's rolling. So here at UMass Amherst, that we don't do rolling. We do early action and a regular decision. So you call what we call a EA and RD. So early action that students will have to apply by November. And then I will read all the application, but we would hold the decision. And until Christmas and New Year that we release the decision. And then another deadline is what we call the regular decision. And the deadline is around January. And then we read all the application and we hold the decision and then release in March and February. So long story short is that early action is the one that you apply earlier and you're gonna get a decision earlier. And then regular decision is that you apply a little later and then you get a decision a little later. But you still until you have the until May 1st to make a final decision to make a deposit. So this is for the enrollment management. It's how we call that we cooking the class. So we're cooking and then say, okay, computer science, we're going to make a 200 spot, and then engineering, and then we're going to make 150, so on and so forth. So that is what we call the EA and RD. The other kind of the admissions process is called ED, early decision. So early decision is kind of binding. If you apply to early decision school, students gets accepted, and then student must go. The student will have to drop other applications that they apply to. So again, the early decision there's a binding there. So as a counselor, how do you advise the students which one to apply to? So here's the tip. If a student knows where exactly that he want to go or she want to go, and then that school offers ED, the decision, early decision. You apply to that one because you must go. And then if a student is very, the grades is really consistent and SAT, ACT are good enough, and I would recommend that student apply to early action. Okay, so you apply earlier and then you're gonna get a decision earlier. The other situation is that sometimes the students has a grade that drop in sophomore year or junior year, or the grades not very consistent, and then or student needs to take another SAT or ACT. I would recommend this student apply to regular decision, so we get to see the student's senior grades. So it really depends on the student's situation and make a decision, and then go play the game, RD, ED, or EA, or rolling. So the next one, I would like to talk about the SAT or ACT. A lot of students ask me, why do I need to provide SAT or ACT? I'm an IB student. I'm going to pursue the IB diploma. So I always tell students, think about SAT and ACT. It's not a punishment. It's not. It's actually a tool. Because for students who are really good at academic, you take an SAT, you get to good, really selective schools. If students, they need some kind of financial aid, a lot of institutions in the US, they will offer scholarship even though they don't require SAT for the admissions purpose. But if you want to get scholarship, sometimes they want you to have SAT or ACT. So I always tell them, you are IB students, there's no problem for you to get a really good SAT or ACT. So again, think about that as a tool, not a punishment, okay, to get into the good school and to get more money. That's my opinion, but that is pretty true. The next one is the transcript. That, of course, we will require transcript. Most institutions will want you to provide the original transcript with the original grades. You don't need to try to convert into US GPA. For example, Ontario, that you do 9, 10, 11, and 12. Right? And then every institution has a different GPA conversion. For example, at UMASS Amherst, we consider 85 and above is all A students. Okay, that's what we do at UMASS Amherst. So we would like to see your original grade. You don't have to convert it into A, B, C, D. Some institutions will require that foreign credential will have to go to third party. But again, for us, that we don't require that. So it's really important that you know which institution are the different requirements. And I can guarantee you, it's really complicated. Because we really try to make it as complicated as we can in the admissions process. The letter of recommendation. I know a lot of counselors like, do you really read that? Why do I have to spend all the time and write all the letter recommendations? I do. I read every single word, and I highlight it. Especially, I would like to see counselors, when you are writing letter recommendation for Asian students, I would like you to mention about their English proficiency. Reason for that is that it's not bias or stereotype. Asian students, they're really good at taking tests. And then I oftentimes see they have a TOEFL like 110, 96, 98, come to campus, they don't speak English. Okay, so for really like international students, not the students from the non-English speaking country, when you're writing that kind of letter of recommendation, I would really appreciate it if you kind of mention the students' English proficiency. And then oftentimes I see counselors writing, oh, these students always do the homework, turn in homework on time. I was like, really? Is that a recommendation? That it's not our job to turn in homework on time? Yeah. So there are many, many different kind of letter of recommendation. And then for me, I really read that every single word, and then it's quite important to help me understand who the student is. Okay, and then my last one would be giving the advice to students. I would recommend that if all the counselors can tell the students, start your college search early. It's never too early to start. Search the colleges that you're going to apply to, and then understand what requirements are being asked, and also always prepare an application that is very professional. For example, I have seen a lot of students create like a email address. It's like a pinkypeach@gmail.com, or like a brownbigbear@gmail.com. And then it's cracked me up. And then I remember the students in a really bad way, because it's really, this is email address, it's a really simple thing, and then it's present yourself. It has to be professional. And then, so that's one little tiny thing, but it's really important. And always check your grammar, and always check your spelling in the college essays, because sometimes you can make a really, really big mistake by misspelling. The other one is the, yeah, I was looking at super score. Yeah, sorry. So that's the advice. And the other one is, the last one is a super score. So in the US, that most of us, that we will take a student's super score on SAT or ACT. So for example, if you take SAT twice, and then in SAT, you're gonna take English and math, so you take it twice. So the system is gonna pick the highest from each subject, and then that becomes your super score. Okay. And then that's SAT and ACT, or ACT and ACT. ACT has 3 subjects. So if you take them 3 times, the system will pick the highest from each subject. So that would be the super score. So that's why I say, students should always start earlier. And then if you take ACT or ACT, you're not happy with the scores, and then you have time to take the second time or even third time. And then very, very last advice is that I always tell students, SAT, ACT, you can do super score, but you can't redo your grades. So have a really consistent grades. It's very, very important. So that is all I have for this morning, and thank you very much.